Welcome to Midweek Experiments in Faithfulness. This is a weekly facilitated spiritual practice with a Quaker flavor and an experimental ethos. I'm Lahari, and I'm a program fellow here at Beacon Hill Friends House, which is a Quaker Center for Learning and Action, and a residential community of about 20 people who live according to Quaker values. Tonight, I have the delight of talking about Vickie Wu, a dear friend, who is going to present us with a practice we can all be ministers. Anyone can be a minister, yes, including you. The word ministry has strong connections to Christian faith traditions, but what if we took those away? Anyone has the power to be a positive light in the world, and anyone has the ability to help tend whatever flock you identify as yours in this moment in space and time. If we think about ministry without clergy, what comes up is that the word ministry can map to the word service, and we can all serve. We can all show up for each other, for our communities, for our groups, for the world in a radical, loving care. Vickie has a ministry around food and providing nourishment and healing through food as her way of caring for others. What could your ministry be? Now I'm excited to introduce you to Vickie. Vickie Wu is the current associate director at BHFH. She started as BHFH's resident chef and kitchen manager in April 2017. A former banquet/catering chef, Vickie is amused when people ask her about the challenges of cooking every day for 20 people. It's a cakewalk compared to custom banquets for hundreds of people every day. Vickie grew up just outside of Anaheim, California, and moved to Worcester, Massachusetts for college, where she attempted to get a degree in biomedical engineering, but ended up with a degree in theater instead. In her spare time, she continues to enjoy being involved in local community theater. I did see her in PMRP's production of Star Trek, which was wonderful. Occasionally, she also updates her blog and website at www.vickiewoo.com. Vickie, it's all yours.
I'm so glad to be here, and this is a thing that I've been personally, I think, on this kind of reflective journey for a while, because it's a kind of, since my first day here at the house, people have, told me that I have a ministry around food, and that was even before I knew what that meant to me. And as someone who has a complicated relationship with organized religion, I actually resisted that idea for a good number of years, just being like, well, I'm not a minister, I'm not religious, this is weird, it's weird, I don't do that. But the more I think about it, and the more people tell me that I have a ministry around food, I'm just like, oh, well, okay, maybe I do. And then, thinking about, just the ways that like feeding people and caring for people is like my love language. I'm just like, oh, okay, well, maybe there is something to this ministry thing. And it's a very Quaker thing to, say that instead, like, that rather than just having a leaning or having a passion, it's a ministry. And I love that, honestly. It kind of makes these like clerical terms like a lot more accessible to me, to like divorce them from like the Catholic Church, the Christian Church, the whatever. So kind of that's where I am. So I think that's all I have for introductions. I can talk in circles all night, and I don't want to do that to anyone. So so let's dive right in. I have some slides that I will talk through, and then my plan is to, after I've kind of introduced where I'm coming from with this, that we'll have some like maybe like 5 minutes of like reflection time, so that y'all can think about where you may be leaning, or what ministries you may or may not already have, or like what passions or gifts you have that you could very easily translate into a ministry. And then we'll share. I guess we don't really need breakout rooms because there's not that many of us. So yeah, and then we'll just share kind of what is coming up for us, whether that's, oh, I totally know what my ministry is, or I kind of have these ways in which I like to show up. How do I translate that into ministry? Like, just wherever the conversation takes us. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, I hope. Great, wonderful. So again, everyone can be a minister. Yes, even you. Honest, I'm not lying. And so the way I started off thinking about this was just kind of really unpacking the etymology of ministry. And so, there's a lot of like, priest, church, monastery, like service in religion stuff. But like, I mean, if you go further back, like service and servant and personal service or aid, those show up a lot in the etymology as well. So I don't think that it necessarily needs to involve, like organized religion necessarily, right? And then also, I was thinking about, and this is related to, I had 2 slides on ministry. So minister too as well, right? Like it's, service in the Christian church or an agent who acts upon the authority of another. But also again, from Old French, you've got servant or valet or member of a household staff. I'm many of these things already without even talking about, the work that I actually do. And then when I was thinking about minister, I was also thinking about the word deacon. And again, like that deacon or a deaconess is like a very specific, like, position in clergy. But again, going further back, like, based on the Greek diakonos, I don't speak Greek, so I'm pretty sure that I have mispronounced it, but bear with me. And that's like, servant. And it could be servant of the church, or it could just be servant. Right. So what I'm seeing here, and the common thread that I was finding through all of this is that like ministry and ministers and deacons, like it's based on just the word service. And service can mean a lot of things too, but service doesn't have to mean anything religious, right? And I think that that's really beautiful in a lot of ways, because that makes a lot of who I am like make more sense, right? Because like I'm a very service-oriented person, but I'm not at all a religious person. And I think I struggled with that a lot because service in terms of like church work or religious work, like those terms are so often intertwined. And for me, that was always very uncomfortable. So where does that leave us? There's this really great article that I came across. This is a pretty religious website. The website's domain is Today God is First. So this was a little rough on me to read, but this particular article is really great because it was all about how like even your secular work, if you're doing it like with faith and with integrity, it is a ministry. And this is my favorite quote from that article is, think about this. If you're filling someone's teeth, you're ministering to your patient. If you're playing in a symphony orchestra, you're ministering to the audience. If you're flying an airplane, you're ministering to the passengers. If you wait on tables, you are ministering to the customers. All of that clearly fits under biblical diaconia. And that really resonated with me because I don't want to be clergy, but there are so many ways in my work and in my outside of work life where I am just doing my best to be a person of service. Like I want to help people. I want to show up for people with like love and care. And none of that's like religiously based or religiously motivated. So that's kind of where I started. So then, are you saying that any service can be ministry? Yes, I am. I am actually saying that, and I very much believe it. So talking about my ministry of food, and I just want to give you a little bit of history because I did not like come out of high school being like, I'm going to be a chef and I'm going to serve the people, both like serve the people and like, like physically serving them plates and like serve them in a metaphysical way. As Lahari mentioned during my intro, I went to an engineering college. I thought I was going to be an engineer. I did not become an engineer, but I did pledge Alpha Phi Omega, which is a co-ed national service fraternity. And like that kind of the 3 pillars, they're based on the scouting motto. So like the emphasis is on leadership, friendship, and service. And this is before I even knew how to cook. I think at this point in my life, I was 19 years old at most, and I pretty much could barely boil water. But I knew that I wanted to do service and I wanted to serve people. And then after college, I briefly attended Unity Church, which is another kind of New Thought church. And I often volunteered to bring snacks for fellowship. And then, kind of through that, I also ended up just like volunteering like my catering services. And this is before I went to culinary school. So this was not exactly like world-class cuisine, right? This was like random crap on toast that I was putting out at parties. But like I did things called like that I did fundraisers where I provided food, and then the music minister at Unity would like play a bunch of songs, and like that was a fundraiser for the church. And like, I mean, obviously, the music minister was a minister, like that was his title. He was the music minister. But then people started like really, lifting up what gifts I was bringing too. And like, I think at that point, they were not, the words ministry around food in any order or iteration had not been said to me, but I think people were already starting to see me that way. And I was starting to see myself that way of like, oh, I can just be useful to people just by being myself, which is really cool because, as someone who suffers really a lot from imposter syndrome and like, at that point, fresh out of college with a theater degree from an engineering college, I basically had no marketable skills. So I felt that like, you know, contributing in this way to this tiny church that I went to was like me, being useful in ways and like connecting with people, and that was like really important to me. And then I went to culinary school and I became a line cook, and I worked in a corporate cafeteria. And I wanted to emphasize that, like, for a lot of people, being a cafeteria lady, it's just like, here's your food, okay, move on down the line, whatever. But even then, like, the pride I took in the job that I was doing meant that I was learning my customers' likes and dislikes and allergies, even though I didn't even know their names, right? But I'd be like, oh, yes, I know you told me that you are allergic to pineapple, so, like, you do not want the teriyaki entree today, like I would recommend this option, or like maybe today is a day that you hit the sandwich bar or the grill or the salad bar because I may not have anything for you. And people really like appreciated that, like they didn't know my name, I didn't know their name, but like they could see my face and be like, this girl knows what I can and cannot eat, or this girl knows what I like and will sneak me an extra half portion of mashed potatoes or something like that, like just all these ways in which that like I didn't think I was going above and beyond in terms of customer service, but it was just like, no, I care about the job I do, and I want you to have a good meal, even if it's at this like crappy cafeteria in the Biogen building. Like, I want you to have a good meal. So that just became really important to me. And again, like I hadn't thought about the word ministry at this point, but it was very much like looking back on it now, like it's very much what I was doing. Then I joined the staff here at the house 7 years ago, my goodness. And that's when about 2 years in, I really started leaning into, oh, maybe I do have a ministry around food, because so many people had told me that. And I think I was just running out of steam to deny it. And this is all that, and to me, like, my job, even when I was not the associate director and I was, big air quotes, just the kitchen manager and resident chef, I was like, my job necessarily has to involve more than just putting food on the table, right? My job involves making sure that everyone has their nutritional needs met. And it means that I am making sure that I'm keeping track of not only people's allergies and sensitivities, but also their preferences too. Because if you don't like the food and you're not going to eat it, then I have still not done my job. So it just kind of expanded into like this kind of deep care that I've always wanted to bring to my work. And now, as of the last 7 years, I've really been able to do, and that's been so meaningful to me that as I reflect on it, I'm like, oh yeah, no, okay, I guess I am a minister of food. Like, it took me a long time to stop being in denial about it, but I think that that's where I am, and I'm really not mad about it, because it is such a like I very much believe in like radical hospitality, and that's really not a term that's easy to define, but for me, it just means doing my job and doing it well and taking care of my flock, which for the most part is residents here and our friends and visitors and stuff, and like just making sure that everyone who comes to my table has a real good time and is fed not only physically but like spiritually and emotionally too. And so, as I do this, more of this, like, I guess what I am learning is called pastoral care, with like, my flock, our residents and our friends and our visitors. And I'm just like, oh, I'm doing so much more than just putting food on the table. I actually am kind of caring for my flock, and that is resonating a lot with me. And I was like, my thought was that, like, if this thing that comes totally naturally to me is my ministry, then why not have, like, what's stopping anyone else from having something that they're passionate about be their ministry, right? And I understand that I'm talking in circles, but it's also interconnected. So my query that I'd like folks to reflect on for maybe about 5 minutes or so, you can like type notes on your phone or scribble on something if you want to, is just, I mean, the main question is, what does ministry look like or feel like for you, to you? What do you think ministry would be for you? And if you don't have an answer to that question yet, then I would encourage you to reflect on what your passions are, what you like to do, or how you like to show up for people. Those, I think, are all interrelated questions. Uh, so I think that what I'd like to do now is I'm going to stop screen sharing because that is my last slide. And as you settle back into your body, just kind of do a little check, like how you're feeling, what you're feeling, what's coming up for you, where you are in time and space. Do a little wiggling if you need to get yourself more firmly into your physical body. Okay, and we're back. Thank you, everyone. Thus far, you've been an amazing captive audience, and I very much appreciate it. So now I'd just like to open up the floor for anybody in the room, whether in physical meet space or in virtual space. Just if you want to share, what came up for you, what's got you all fired up right now, or what you're, if there's any other questions or things that you're still holding. Just whatever came up for you while I was talking or while we were, ruminating and reflecting together. The floor is now yours.